All right, so in the last video, we created the auth options object. We passed it into next auth, and we exported our handler in the route as get and as post. Now what we need to do is basically bring in the session provider and wrap our application, and we're going to do that in the layout. Now, I don't want to bring the session provider directly into the layout and wrap it because we do have to make it into a client component, and I don't want the layout to be a client component. So what we'll do is create the auth provider in a separate component and then bring it into the layout and then wrap it. All right, so in components, let's create a new file called auth provider and RAFCE, call it auth provider. And then here we want to import the session provider. So that's going to be from, I believe it's next auth / React. Okay, then what we're going to want to do is this auth provider is going to take in children. So basically whatever we pass in here, whatever we wrap is going to get passed in here. And what we're going to wrap is in our layout, all of this, everything from the HTML tag, all this stuff will be passed into the auth provider component, which then will come in as children. All right, then what we want to do is just, instead of this div right here, let's return session provider and get rid of that and output children. So whatever we wrap. And that's it. That's all we need to do here. So let's save that, and then we can bring it into our layout. So we're going to import auth provider, and then we should be able to just wrap down here. Okay, let's take this, bring that down here, and there we go. So now that's wrapped. So there's basically one other thing I want to do in this video, and then in the next one we'll start to work on the actual sign-in button now that we have a provider to work with. But we do have a couple environment variables we need to add. I believe this is in configuration, and then let's see, where did I see it? Is it in here or options? Yeah, right here. So we need 3 environment variables, next auth URL. So when deploying to production, this environment variable, or set this environment variable to the, I can never say this word, canonical URL of your site. So basically we just want to set that, and then there's also an internal URL which we can set, which in our case is going to be localhost for both of these. But once we deploy, you'll want to change that to your actual domain. And then next auth secret, it needs to be an encrypted hash token. So we can actually generate that with a command, and I'll show you that in a second. But let's create these 3 environment variables. So in our .env, we're going to add next auth _ URL HTTP localhost 3000, and then I'm going to copy that down. We're also going to have next auth URL _ internal, which I'll keep at the same localhost 3000. Then we want next auth _ secret, and for that we can actually generate this with the command openSSL and then rand -base 6432, and this should work on Windows, Mac, whatever. And then it's going to generate this hash that we can then grab. Yours will be different, obviously, and you can use that as the secret. Okay, so we'll save that, and yeah, we should be all set now to, well, let's see what's going on here. React context is unavailable in server components. Yeah, that's why I didn't. Wait a minute. Oh, I never made the component a client. So this is the exact reason why I did this. So the auth provider is still a server component. I never added use client. But yeah, that's what would happen if we used it directly. So that actually gives you a good example of why I did this. So now that works, right? But we didn't have to make the layout client side. So like I said, next we're going to make this button work. So that's going to be in the nav bar. So we have a bunch of work to do there. But we should be able to then hook up our provider, and then we should be able to call this sign in, which then we're going to do this stuff, connect to the database, check the user, etc.